Then they, the third part, or the second part, they read through and they're really building those close reading habits, highlighting, underlining, pulling out the main idea and the detail, and supporting why that detail supports the main idea. Because if it doesn't, it's going to tell them they need to rethink their logic behind it. Then the third part is read to write, where they have an open-ended question, and based on all of the information, they've now read this article 3 times, so they're really invested in it. They then have to respond to an open-ended question based on that information, and they type out the response, which you can see in your reports page.
So is every article, every story, every whatever they're going through the same per grade level?
2 through 5, only in the close reading.
Only in the close
Yeah.
reading. But like the diagnostic testing and things like that.
There will be passages, yes. They'll have passages that they have to read where they'll answer questions and things like that.
But all the same.
You may not see the same question that she sees because you might be at a different level than she is. But
the
it's set up
reading.
the same way, yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
So,
Yes.
So if it's something that completely
so
uninteresting.
these are basically teacher-led?
Nope, these are student-led. These are student-led, online individualized instruction for the students who have the online instruction.
Student-led or teacher-led?
Student.
Student. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. We'll talk about,
Okay.
I went to that because of the question. We'll get back to the online instruction after we're done with the assessment piece. So I'll get more invested in this. I just wanted to answer the fluency piece because it's not, there isn't here's a fluency lesson, but it is built in through those components, if that makes sense. All right. I want to get back to the report because the next report that I want to look at, a couple things to point out. Your orange back button is how you go back and forth through iReady. Do not use your browser back, we'll log you out every time. Okay? So go ahead and hit that orange back button and I'll answer your question.
You might have already answered this, but does levels have anything to do with grade levels?
Yes.
Level 3 is third
Is grade level 3. Yes.
Oh, okay.
If they are on grade level, it will say early, mid, or late, like right here where it says late 4, into 4th grade. If they're above or below, it'll just say level and then whatever grade level they're on.
All right.
Yeah. So the level represents the grade level.
The grade level.
But the scale score does not represent the grade level. So this does not mean the student is at a mid-6th grade level, for instance. The scale score has nothing to do with the grade level insofar as representing like 600 is a 6th grade level. What it does, the purpose of the scale score is for you to show growth easier. So my kid started at a 658. The next time we take a diagnostic, they're at a 670. They've made 12 points growth from point A to point B.
Would that be considered a big growth? Because some tests it's like 200 is a bit,
So our scale's a lot smaller than a lot of the other tests you may have given. It's only on an 850 point scale, 0 to 850. So with that being said, average growth is, well, at the lower grades, it's going to be like 25 or 30 points because they make more growth in, say, K and 1 than they do at an 8th grade level. So as you move through, the scales go lower. By 8th grade, you're probably only looking at making about a 12 to 15 point jump a year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
But I need to be logged in. Kick me out. I didn't hit the back button.
No,
Just kick me out.
after it's been, just log back in with the DI-teacher. All right, where I want you to go, when you go back, we're going to go to the instructional grouping profile. If it logs you out, because it will time you out after a certain period of time, just log back in with the 308, DI-teacher 308, password 308. And I'm in instructional grouping profile, so I want to make sure everybody's here with that. We good?
We're all logging in.
Okay.
You didn't have to?
I didn't have to.
Because I messed it up. Give it a second. All right. Okay.
And I switched to math this time just to make everybody else in the room happy. If you want me to stay with reading, I can.
No.
I didn't want to leave my math people out, so.
No.
Hey, Debbie, I will put fingers to. You are surrounded by math.
And I went to instructional
I will,
grouping
it's fine.
profile, and you can click create report when you're ready.
Because I can razz you through. Instructional out. Right there.
And I'm going to talk about this for just a moment, and then we'll get to the student report as well in just a second.
What is it again?
All right. Your instructional grouping profile, remember I said it takes all of your students in your class, and it puts them into 5 profiles, or basically 5 small groups based on the data? And somebody said, well, how is that data figured out? Well, this is how it's figured out. You have a little key on the side here. So for math, okay, profile 1 and profile 2 are any student who is below level in a foundational skill. So if you have a student who falls below grade level in a foundational skill, they are automatically placed in Profile 1 or Profile 2. Then we break that out even further and we say, okay, Profile 1, if they are 2 or more grade levels below in a foundational skill, Profile 1, 1 grade level below Profile 2. In reading, it's done by phonics. Any student who falls below level in phonics is in Profile 1 or Profile 2. Then we break it out and say, more than 1 grade level below in vocabulary, Profile 1, 1 grade level below Profile 2. So it's phonics and then vocabulary. Now, Profile 3, 4, and 5, they have the foundational skills in place, but they're struggling somewhere else. So for reading, okay in phonics and everything else, but they're struggling in either vocabulary or comprehension, 1 grade level below, or I'm sorry, 2 grade levels below, 1 grade level below. Profile 5, reading or math, they're on and above in everything, they're ready for acceleration. So the kiddos in Profile 5 are your true green kiddos who are ready for accelerated or on grade level work sometimes, maybe not necessarily accelerated, but they're not below level on anything, okay? So as I'm looking at my profiles, this is a representation of 40 students. Hopefully none of you have 40 kids in one class. But I have 1/4 of my students are in Profile 1 right now.
Right.
So I have 1/4 of my class that is below level in number and operations, but specifically 2 or more grade levels below in a foundational skill. So I really need to find out what is happening with that group of kiddos. The other concerning part is there are 9 of them. That is not a small group. One thing that you're going to notice right off the bat is your data is going to look a little lopsided at the beginning of the year. It happens all the time, especially with new users. I'm going to come in September, you're going to say, I'm really worried that 15 out of my 20 kids are in Profile 1. You know what? It's going to happen. It's not going to happen to everybody. I don't want to make a blanketed statement, but the truth is it happens a lot. For several reasons. One, this is a brand new assessment to them. They've never taken anything that's quite like this before. So some of it could just be not knowing maybe how to respond or what the question was asking. 2, it's giving you a really true indication of where your students are. So you really have the how and the why of what's happening with those kiddos, and this just may be where they're at in reality. And 3, it's just, a lot of times that's how the data plays out, because, like I said, it's new. Maybe they didn't do their best. Maybe you have some kiddos in Profile 1 that rushed. We're going to talk about that in just a moment. It just popped into my head. So little things like that.
So
Yes.
I'm sorry, I have to back up and ask you, are we measured, when they take that beginning test,
Yep.
they're measured against the end of year, 4th grade? I mean, or
They're
at
measured
what
on the
point
same-
in the 4th, say they're coming out of the 3rd grade, going into the 4th grade.
Mhm.
We give them in beginning of the year test, we're gonna give them, they'll start at 4th grade, right?
Yep.
So at what point in the grade 4 year does the computer assessment start them? Middle?
It will start the first diagnostic will be a beginning of year 4th grade assessment.
Okay, so
Yep.
it's gonna expect them to have mastered all of the grade 3
Yes,
standards.
correct.
And then we'll be working up from there.
Right.
Okay.
Now the second diagnostic will start wherever the first one left off. So if that 4th grade student, their overall progress was, let's say, a mid-3rd grade level, that's where this assessment will start.
Okay.
So-
So it's gonna know we're at the beginning of 4th grade,
Yep.
not at the end of 4th
Correct.
grade.
Correct.
Or at the beginning of 8th, not the end of it.
Correct.
Okay.
Now, as they're assessing, they may get into 4th grade stuff based on how they perform on it,
Sure.
but it puts everybody on the same playing field.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So I want to look at my Profile 1 a little bit deeper, see what's going on, see who's in there, what have you. So I'm going to come over here. I'm at the top of my report, and I'm clicking on Profile 1. And as I scroll down, I can see right away who's there, what's going on with them. Oh, look at that. Avis is in my Profile 1. Now remember, she was the one that was in the green overall, but she was struggling in certain areas. Looks like it's kind of the same thing here for math. So as I'm looking at this, her actual overall placement in math is actually a level 2. So as a 4th grade student, she's actually 2 grade levels below in math overall. And more specifically, 2 grade levels below in her foundational skills as well. A lot of that's going to have an effect from her reading, because remember her vocabulary was lower and so was her nonfiction comprehension. That's going to affect her math. She can't read her word problems, and she can't make sense of the stuff because she's not comprehending on grade level. That's going to have a real huge effect on her in other subject areas as well, and it's showing up here. So what I do with this data, you can sort your data using these arrows from highest to lowest or lowest to highest. So I'm going to want to do that first, and then I'm going to look a little bit deeper and say, who's in the same boat as Jorge here? So I've got 51, 49, 45. Maybe those three kiddos probably all match up together. That's going to be one group, and I'm going to focus on this foundational skill. Then I'm going to pick another group. Could be the same foundational skill, it could be a different one. Whatever it might be. And once I've broken those up into a more manageable group, I can come down here. I have priorities for instruction, for my number and operations, and for my algebra group. So I have a where to begin instruction with them, and I have the instruction as well. These are full out lesson plans. These are your teacher-led instructional pieces. Okay? So, model 3-digit numbers. I don't know. These are set up with best practices. I do, we do, you do, with a check for understanding. Okay? You'll also notice right here in materials where it says place value chart, page 3, we provide that place value chart for you, so you're not trying to Google a place value chart at 10 o'clock at night for your kids. We're going to give it to you here. So if I've got 3 kids in that group that need it, I'm going to print out 3 of page 3, so I have it available to them as we're going through this place value. What I love for this piece as well is after I've gone through this lesson, there's a check for understanding. If they're still doing X, this might be Y, so try Z. To give you some assistance to know if they're still not understanding the concept, why they may be missing the boat, and then try something different to see if that which kind of goes back to the point we brought up earlier this morning or this afternoon of if I had known a different strategy, I would have tried it back in September and not waited until I figured it out in March. We try and give you a different strategy here, and then we also provide you with the place value chart.
How long do you think a lesson would take?
We give you estimates of time frames within the lesson up here. So we say, this section about 10 to 15 minutes, this section about 10 to 15 minutes. Most of your tools for instruction last between 20 and 30-ish minutes. Some may be a little bit longer, some may be a little bit less. So you can also break it up. If I do math rotations in 10-minute or 15-minute spurts, because my kids can't sit still for longer than that, I know I can just teach the we do together, and then when we come back next time, we'll do the I do, or you do, and we do together, whatever. All right, however you break it up. But, we break it down, or if they meet with me and then I know he's going to an interventionist later, I can do the beginning part and have the interventionist finish up the second half. And then we can meet together at the end of the day and say, what did you see? Here's what I saw. What do you think? Do we need to go back? Whatever it might be. But again, this allows us to be on the same page. He's not teaching one thing here and I'm teaching one thing here, and somehow that kid who didn't understand it to begin with is somewhere else completely.
Okay, so on the page before it had 8 or 10 lessons listed. What happens when we finish those 8 or 10?
So we have 6 here and we have 5 here. So you can continue by pushing the button. It'll take you to the other lesson.
Okay.
Once you've gone through those, you have a couple of options. There are additional tools for instruction in other domain areas or other grade level areas in your resources tab. I'll show you those in just a moment. Keep in mind that you also have the online lessons for some of those kiddos, but you'll probably have other things in your core materials that you can be doing with them, or they'll get other activities through the center activities as well to continue that learning or move them forward in their learning path.
Would this be like when we would progress monitor them maybe, and then would new things pop
You could.
up?
You could definitely do that. I would say most of these lessons are probably at least 2 to 3 days, depending on the student and whether or not they're understanding it, or if you need to go back and reteach, those kind of things. All right, questions about the instructional grouping profile? All right, I want to give you time to kind of play around with it in your learner's notebook. On the following page, so we were on page 10, looks like, or 11 rather. So on page 12, there is your instructional grouping profile. Gives you an opportunity to kind of dig a little bit deeper into what is it telling me, what is it offering me, those kind of things. And then we're going to look at the student profile in just a moment. And actually there's some parts about exploring the tools for instruction section as well on page 13.
So is grade 5 the highest diagnostic period?
K-12.
Okay, they're just in.
That's because you have an elementary login.
Okay.
So we have a tried account for elementary, one for middle, and then one
That's
for
what
admin.
you were telling
Yeah,
me.
yeah,
that we did.
yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
So that's why it only goes to 5th grade. Yeah. Give you a couple more minutes and then we're going to take a look at the student profile. I'm going to pull you guys back together. You may not have finished all the questions, and you're more than welcome to use this account and dig a little bit deeper on your own as well. But for the sake of time, I want to make sure you guys have a few minutes to take the diagnostic as well. I want to take a look at the student report. Now, in this report, if you want to, if you are on the profile page, if you go back to the top and you click on where it says Overview, it will take you back to this main page within the instructional grouping profile. Anytime you see a name in blue that's underlined, you'll see this in the class profile as well as the instructional grouping profile. You can click on a student's name and it will take you right to their student profile. So I'm going to click on Avis. We've been picking on her all day. And it takes me right to her student profile. So if you want to pick a kiddo from the instructional grouping profile and you click on their name, it will take you right to their student profile report. And we're going to learn all kinds of new stuff about Avis from this report as well. One question was asked about Lexile information. In reading, you will get a Lexile report. For math, you get quantile. For reading, you'll get Lexile. And that's in the student report only. So you can get that information for each student. You can also get it for your whole class in a different report, and I'll show you where that is later. But it is available to you as a tab in the student report, and you can get more information about that through that piece in the reading. All right, so I know that Avis is a couple grade levels below. This is a big area of concern for me. As I scroll down, I see she's really struggling in her foundational skills, actually all skills going through that piece. And as I scroll down a little bit further, I get what's called a developmental analysis. Now I love this report because this is the first time I've seen on an assessment, and we are very much a transparent reporting company as far as that goes. But what I get here is I get what she was tested on and where to begin instruction with her at her level. Okay? So what I mean by that is in algebra and algebraic thinking, census domains address skip counting, fact families, using number sentences. So that's where she was assessed on. Test results indicate she'll review from subtraction, basic multiplication concepts, and selecting the proper operation to solve real-world math problems. That's a lot of really great information. And I've been wanting to know the why and the how for a while, and now I have it. And it's right there on the front page. All I have to do is select her name. It's going to tell me exactly where I need to begin instruction and what to begin instruction on. The other beauty of this piece is I can scroll to the top and click on algebra and algebraic thinking, and it's going to tell me the same things. So it's going to tell me where she's proficient, what she already knows, and where to begin instruction with her as an individual student. So, do I have any special ed folks? Special ed? No? Okay, well, from a teacher standpoint, I can tell you, IEP goals. Why reinvent the wheel, folks? It's all right here. That's what I said to the first group as well. What a lot of times we don't think about is why work harder? If this is what I'm doing with her in class, why not create the goals from them? And a lot of districts that I work with will just copy and paste this directly from this report. Because it just makes it, this is what I'm going to be doing with her anyway. So why try and change the wording? Since it's all standards based as it is, it's all right here. This is exactly what I'm going to be doing. Now, I'm not going to do all of these in a quarter, of course, or a semester, but I'm going to start with probably subtraction problems, and identifying odd and even would probably be a good place to start with her, because that's basic number sense, and fact families. And that's math fluency, basically. So those are three key pieces that I need to focus on. Now, my only concern is that's multiplication, the other thing is subtraction, so I might want to stay within the same order of operation. But I could find specific things that relate to where to begin instruction, and then once I've identified those things, I have tools for instruction that go right along with them. So keep in mind, this is specific to one student as opposed to the small group that we looked at, but it's specific to that student. She's at a second grade level. I now have second grade material to meet her areas of need. I don't have to guess. I don't have to wonder. I don't need to figure out where. Right here. Takes all the guesswork out. So now I have a really good foundation of where do I need to go. Yes?
In the reading portion, will those materials, like if I'm under a certain student, will those materials automatically be at that person's reading level?
Yes, it'll be at the grade level that they performed within that domain.
Okay.
Yes. So remember, these are all teacher-led. So it'll say, you know, if you're working on comprehension or you're working on fact and opinion, if there's a graphical organizer that goes with it, that'll be given to you as well, and it'll break it down for you. All right. There is an activity that goes with this, but I'm going to skip that so you guys have time to take the diagnostic. My question for you is, thinking about that student that I had you think about at the beginning, can you see now how iReady, if it ever comes up, helps you to support that student? I now have the materials, the data, and quite honestly, probably some of that time back. Because now I'm not Googling or going to TPT or running down to my second grade friend that may or may not have the data that I'm looking for whatever it might be. I have everything I need right at my fingertips. It's right here. I can do this from the comfort of my own home and know exactly where I'm going. I don't have to guess anymore. And I have valid, reliable data that I can use, whether I'm with my grade level, whether my principal's asking me for information or whatever it is, it's right here. I don't have to go and search and find. We all have it. Kid gets sick at 7 in the morning and you're ready to walk out the door. If you need something for a small group, you can save it as a PDF, email it to your grade level friends and say, hey, my sub's going to need this for small groups, here you go. I don't have to guess anymore. I don't have to run around like a chicken with my head cut off trying to figure it out. It's all right here. All right. What I want you guys to do is I'm going to have you log out of this piece. Stay on the same page, but just hit log out. And on your front copy here, this username here, where it says student, it has a 4-digit number, and then it says @training 4 or 7 or K. This is your login to take the diagnostic. I've created student logins for everybody. Okay. I'm going to give you about 5 or 10 minutes or so to actually take the diagnostic. So this is your login to take the diagnostic. You're not going to finish today. If you want to finish it on your own time, because I created one for reading and one for math, you're more than welcome to finish it whenever you feel like it. But if you want to go ahead and log in, and what I want you to be looking for and thinking about are a couple of key questions.
Choose a subject.
I want you to think about, first of all, what are you noticing and what you might need to do to prepare your students to be successful on this assessment. I'll give you about 5 or 10 minutes. We'll come back together and answer those questions.
What was your question?
What did you notice and what might you need to prepare for your students for to take the diagnostic? And I'll leave these questions up.
All get directions for not having earbuds.
Right.
Hello. Select the green button.
Ah! So you need it. I actually got some down on my bag.
We're gonna need headphones for this, or it's gonna
Not for our purposes today, no, it's fine. We're not quite as distractible as kindergartners, so you're fine. Well, maybe, I don't know. I can be at times. It's based on the grade level, so I had some lower elementary, some upper elementary, maybe slightly different.
Remember, if you rush and don't take your time, you may need to retake the test. If you haven't learned how to answer every question you see, but that's okay. If you don't know the answer, just take your best guess. Based on what I read, you know exactly what you've learned and what you need to learn. This way, you can work on lessons that are just right for you. Lessons that are not too hard or not too easy. Got all that? There it is. There are a few more things you should know before you begin. Notice that there's a My Progress button at the bottom of your screen.
How many more questions do you have? That would be great. That's definitely. I'm almost done.
Will show where you left off.
Did you see the done button?
Exactly. If it says next
Same
thing, I've
conversation I
done.
think I just had with my
To
graduate.
answer a question, select your answer. Then you click the done button. Other questions might use space and blocks. Click the plus or minus signs to add or remove pasted blocks. Click here to start over. Here's another tool, the hundreds chart. Click on numbers in the chart to add highlight or remove highlight. Click here to add highlights to or remove highlights from an entire row. Sometimes you will need to use a calculator. Click the numbers and symbols to add, subtract, multiply, or divide. Click the equal sign to find your answer. Some questions will use an and counters. You can add one counter at a time to the 10 frame. Click this eraser to undo your last move, or click here to start over. Others might ask you to put on a number line. Click here on the number line to place the point. Click it again if you need to remove it. If you are happy with your selection, click the done button. You may also be asked any points.
How do you do?
Those are getting easier, I must have got one wrong.
2 points and a line
Pretty sure on my screen.
make a mistake. Click here to undo.
I kept getting more into them, and I'm like, I might have to into them, right? So
That's what I was like.
Click start and good luck.
If you get to a brain break, it'll be a doggy that flies around in spaceship. You can stop.
Carson has 31 baseball cards. He loses 2 cards. Count back. Which is equal to 6 plus 3 plus 7.
If it says it's okay, if it's on.
Now, is this the diagnostic we're doing?
Yes.
And we're able to do it on here, but the kids won't be able to.
Well, in theory they could, but the problem is because that's a workaround, it's not a fix. We've noticed some issues with Puffin. It'll freeze a lot of the times, or you may not see all the answer choices, or you may not hear the sound, those type of things. So we want to make sure to reduce as much of that issue by not taking it through Puffin. You may run into the same issues with the lessons, but that's not as critical as the diagnostic, since everybody's taking the diagnostic. Yeah.
Have you had to type one in? Mm-hmm. You gotta hit this button, and it covers
I know
your
districts that
screen.
use Puffin.
Yeah.
There's actually a purchase one. It's $3.99 where districts will purchase it, and they run iReady through it. And they have some issues. Sometimes they don't. It just kind of depends. So it's just if there's an issue through the Puffin, that's something that we can control.
Right.
So that's why we don't recommend using it.
Don't recommend.
Yeah.
Well, I know down at EC, yeah, they use Puffin a lot to do their different tests. I can't even think of what it's with. Their journeys. It's with
Oh,
their
the journey,
journeys.
okay.
Yeah, and that's the only way you could give them their assessments was to get through Puffin, and it worked. But yeah, and that's what I was wondering.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why we're working on a fix through the HTML5, which just isn't completely out yet.
Right, but that should be in.
18-19 school year, but slowly throughout this year, we're building it in for the lessons.
Okay.
So that's why, you may see more and more compatibility as the year goes on this year.
Are you still gonna have time that you can show us where it'll tell us the lessons available
Yes,
to it?
yes,
Okay.
I will make sure
I
to
don't
do
want
that
you
here
to
next.
forget.
Yeah, I won't, I promise.